Corner to Corner podcast. My name's Geoff, as I'm sure you know by now, and his name is
Paul. Yes,
Paul.
that's
Yes,
me.
as he
Yeah,
shall.
I've adopted that as my surname now. Paul. Yes, it's part of my positive mental approach for 2026.
Pick your
I'm a
pick.
yes kind of guy. I'm a yes man.
Yes,
If
man.
you want it, the answer is yes.
Can I have some money?
Damn, this is going to get me. No, bugger off. That's the end of my resolution, isn't it? You've destroyed me in 1 second. This is what he does, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, dear, it's what I have to put up with.
So,
I will not be defeated.
yes. So,
No.
on tonight's episode, or today's, or this morning's, whenever you're listening,
Whenever you're listening to
it, we're going to take a look back at Demons of the Punjab.
Demons.
I thought that we'd looked at this a while ago, but I think it was from when I chatted to Joe Ford on his podcast at one point. I can't remember if we commentated through it or if we just talked in depth about it. But I certainly haven't watched
Either way,
it.
I wasn't invited, so it's fine, mate. Don't you worry about it.
No, sadly not. And we're talking of other podcasts. If you would like to hear me waffle about Avatar for an hour and a half, and why wouldn't you, head over to James Cameron 101 and check out the chat I had with Eddie, who runs that, and Elvira as well. So that was really good. I really enjoyed that. So it was a lot of fun.
I'm pleased you enjoyed it.
Well, yes, you wouldn't, but that's your problem. Before
I don't mind Avatar. I just don't quite get as orgasmic over it as you do. You know, has its time and place.
well, I'm not going to mention it again here.
Yeah, right.
Before we go
When I see it,
into the main
Yes.
discussion, we just thought we'd do a quick shout out to the people that support our podcast. There's many of you that support by liking and commenting, but we have a number of people who subscribe to our Explorers option, paying £2 or so, depending on the exchange rate, £2 a month, to help literally support the podcast and help to
the price of a cup of coffee from a popular chain of restaurants.
not mentioning any names. We'll talk a little bit more about the Explorers in a moment, but I'm going to see how quickly I can get through these names and thank everyone. So,
Do you want me to set the countdown? Set a timer?
Go on then. Okay,
Starting. Wait, because I'm going to do this now. Oh, that means I've got to find my actual timer, doesn't it?
Now
Right,
I'm going to
here
go
we
fully
Ready?
for
Steady, go.
Jamie Cowan, James Eliula Waterhouse, Corey, Paul Allison, Shane, Katie Haynes, Martin, Chris, Alex Ollie, Carl Perry Lloyd, Graham, Matthew Purchase, Andy Price, and Owen. Oh, and there's some more. Hang on, cut that bit. That doesn't count. Fee Byrne, Tabs, Ian Banks, Cole, Eleanor, Jodie Alowski, Alaluski, and Cass McBride.
Chesky.
So, sorry, I never know how to pronounce that name. 18 seconds. You could take off 8 for my having to click show more.
I'll take off 2 seconds. There you go. That's me being generous. Well done. But no, thank you to all those people who subscribed. We absolutely couldn't do this with you. We certainly couldn't do our audio adventures and lots of other things. So we, as I said before, you get our time for free, but sometimes, just occasionally, we got to pay for stuff like this platform and everything else. And oh my goodness, everything's going up in it. Eh? It's not like it was when I was a lad and everything was a shilling.
Well, there was no podcasting back then either, in the 20s. But yeah, you know,
Yes,
obviously...
it was called the radio, mate, the wireless.
Yeah, true, yeah. But obviously the podcast hosting cost, the platform that we record through costs and, you know, various things. So we are extremely grateful. So the Explorers option, we're going to play a little video in a moment, which if you're watching on YouTube, you'll obviously be able to see. But if you're not, basically it's a small cost every month. There's early episode access, quite often a few days in advance of the Sunday release, depending on when we will record, admittedly. Extended episodes. We sometimes do extra episodes as well. And we also send out a badge to subscribers as well, the very special Who See to See badge, which needs updating, actually, for the new logo. We have
The one
to
with the
sort
old
that.
logo is now a collector's
It
item,
is, yeah.
basically.
I did not see it on eBay for £200 recently.
You didn't actually, did you?
No, I did say I did not. Asterisk not. Paul, why don't you play the little advert that I...
Here it is, Geoff.
Oh, yes.
It's pretty special, isn't it? French.
I was just checking to make sure I spelt everything right.
Skills on that. Skills on that. Who did all that time tunnel effect? That's amazing.
That was you, and
so it was.
The text was me. So yeah,
you did the rocket ship.
I downloaded that. Yeah. So yeah, if anyone is listening, there's a link on wherever you're listening or watching. Do if you can, we appreciate that times are tough, but it'd be great to have you join the Ship Explorers and help travel across the universe with us.
Yes.
Right. Shall we get into this? Demons of the Punjab. So.
Demons of the Punjab. You ready? You can do a countdown?
Yeah, let's do it on 1. 3, 2, 1.
I'm on. Oh. There we go. This is brilliant, isn't it? Because it's kind of straight into that woodly-dum vortex thing.
Well, I do love this title sequence. It is lovely. I do miss this era. I was thinking actually the other day.
Getting all nostalgic again.
Just wipe my eyes. I haven't watched any of it for a little while, but I've been sort of quite busy with the the Big Finish audios that have been out recently. And then I texted you and said, "What should we do this week?" And you said, "How about a Jodie rewatch?" And I thought,
because I felt you needed cheering up, so that's why I suggested it. But just before we go on too far from those titles, what I love about them is that they're like an updated effect, an updated treatment on the very first titles that we used to get with William Hartnell, where you get that thing kind of coming up and then it all kind of flowers around.
Yes.
That sort of Rorschach pattern that ebbs and flows in and out and then eventually sort of turns into a kind of timey, vortexy kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. And this is one of the things I do love about season 11. It is, for me, the purest reboot of the series that we've had. It is so close to the original concept of the story to provide adventures for the Doctor and companions, 3 companions as well, like the original TARDIS crew, that kind of educate as well, that shed some sort of light on the modern world and history and everything, but also takes into sci-fi adventures as well. It's a really good mix of historicals and sci-fi, and yet fully bang up to date, right up to the minute. And it's not like the Doctor Who that preceded it. Exactly. It's not like Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who. It's not like Russell T Davies's Doctor Who. And I think for many that was maybe a little bit disjointing, but for me, I absolutely loved it because I think, as I've always said on this podcast, and I know you agree with me on this, Geoff, Doctor Who has to move on. Yeah. And it's strange that, in order to kind of move on, it almost has to revisit the original brief. When we interviewed Chris Chibnall, just throwing that one out there, our mega interview with producer Chris Chibnall, showrunner Chris Chibnall, Chris Chibnall, the guy what did all this, and we interviewed him. Anyway, enough of that. But he told us that he literally did dig out the original documents that they had back in 1963 and use those as his springboard for this series.
Yeah,
so
did.
I love that, and I love all of this series. It is by far my favourite series of modern Who.
For me, I think the series 11, series 12 Flux, they increase in quality as they go along, and I think I said this once on Twitter, and some people turned up.
Did you get a pylon?
I did, yeah. Some people turned up who didn't agree. But
no, the last few years, you say anything about this era of Doctor Who, and you get a pylon. I made the mistake once of posting about Legend of the Sea Devils, and that went on for days.
Yes,
it was ridiculous.
That, yeah. But what I said online was something along the lines of it took Doctor Who 56 years or whatever to become perfect and to become
that is ridiculous.
The show it was meant to be. I don't think it was, because this series particularly was it like I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. For me, this was when it it hit it, and I was like, geez, this is like what it should always have been and should be, and I just think it's absolutely superb. But I tell you what, it's quite interesting that the pile-on type things has sort of died a bit of a death. You comment, oh yeah, Shooty was good. No one comes out the woodwork about that. You post about this era, no one does anything now either. So it's interesting.
There's still a few. There's still a few. There's still a few of them that just seem to kind of, I don't know if they get alerts on their phone as soon as anybody mentions Chris Chibnall or Jodie Whittaker as a doctor. They sort of creep out of the woodwork. But I mean, look at it; it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a series where Doctor Who went to. We get some alien nonsense going on there. But we went to South Africa, and here I think we're in Granada in Spain, aren't we? So
yes,
the cinematography I think throughout all of this series is gorgeous. But I think on this episode, it outshines almost anything that Doctor Who has ever done with a camera lens before or since. It is just beautiful. I love it. And, there's no doubt in my mind that we are in the Punjab. Everything seems to sell it. I know we're in Spain. I know it's Doctor Who, but it just, I don't know, just the music, the evocation, everything just kind of sells where we're at and when we're at as well. It's moved to this point in a few short minutes. We had that little intro with Yaz that I talked through. Sorry about that. Back in Sheffield, didn't we? So we've gone from that in a minute. Sort of 21st century Sheffield to mid 20th century Punjab within the blink of an eye, visiting Yaz's grandparents, isn't it? It's her grandparents at the time of their marriage, and she thinks it'd be a nice, happy thing. The doctor's already warned her that it's not a good thing to do this, but see now there, right? I'm looking at what's his name? Shane Zaza, who plays Prem, right? And, I've been watching Invasion, which is that American sci-fi series on Apple TV, and it is fantastic. And I've just watched series 3, so I've finished the whole lot now. There might be a series 4, but if there is, it's not out yet. And he's in it. This dude here. Yeah, Shane Zaza. And he plays a kind of Elon Musk type trillionaire sort of bloke who's massively or ridiculously uncompassionate, doesn't care about anything apart from himself and his money, that's it. Or so it seems until the last few episodes when he does a complete about turn spoiler, but he plays him so brilliantly. He actually plays him very similar to this, same kind of inflection, almost like musical quality he's got with his delivery, his sort of rising and falling tone of his voice, and this made him really stand out for me in this episode. And actually stands out on Invasion as well, But it's weird because I'm watching Invasion and all I see in a way is kind of Prem. It took a few episodes for him to really sell me as this really hateful Elon Musk type character. Because here he's so lovely. Everyone's so lovely in this, at least at the start of it, and then it kind of goes a little bit south. But we're not there yet. We're in Happy Land.
You're right about the production levels on this era. And as we've talked about, since, they maybe had more money, but they did not beat this overall look. And I was going to save this to the time-space visualizer later, but I watched the first episode of Seven Dials last night.
Oh, the Agatha Christie thing.
Yeah, so Chris Chibnall adapted it. It's on Netflix. And great first episode. Great mystery, really great central kind of heroine who gets drawn into things. But also, it was absolutely gorgeously shot.
Yeah.
Really, really cinematic. And it's obviously, obviously Chris doesn't direct it, he's not DOP, but it's obviously a goal of his to...
Who did direct it, do you know?
I can't, I'm going to look it up actually quickly, because I wondered...
Have a quick look-see.
It wasn't anyone from Doctor Who, as far as I'm aware. Chris Sweeney, who's a name I've not heard before, but he's done a great job. And Luke Bryan was the DOP, and
director of photography. For those of you who're not quite sure, so I know stuff.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous, mate.
It's
gorgeous.
Got a really nice kind of like tilt shift photography type effect. Where there's sort of a blurring effect around the edges of shots, and lots of film grain, and the colours are really nice and rich, and it's really nicely lit, but just the way it's shot, fantastic. So going from this era and what this quality was like into that doesn't surprise me at all, and it was making me think about the adaptation of Death at the White Hart that's going to be coming at some point, and that I imagine will look very filmic on there. That's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely. So Yaz is thrown into a bit of a conflict here because the man who her grandma is marrying or about to marry isn't actually her granddad.
No.
She has no idea
That's
who this
a shocker,
guy is.
Isn't it?
So this has kind of freaked her out a little bit, hasn't it? So we've already had the Doctor kind of being affected by some sort of alien influence somehow. So we know that there's something not really following the script, I guess.
And
that
we've
was
seen a
expected.
hint of something, haven't we?
And now, of course, we've got this big conundrum going on here. So what happens, or what did happen? What has happened and what is Yaz about to see happen? Because it's weird, isn't it? Because it's all in her past and yet she's experiencing it now. It's one of the great things I love about Doctor Who, this idea that actually the past is playing out at any time and every time. And you can just dip into and out of it. Oh, look at the lighting in this shed, mate. Talk about cinematography, DOP and all that.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Bav Palmer, who plays Sonia, Yaz's sister. And you may have listened to that episode of ours.
She's one of our very first guests.
She was, and I will repeat the story in case people haven't heard it. But the way that we managed to get Bav on the podcast was a total fluke. Yeah. So I was in Soho filming some presenting stuff, and we were asking members of the public if they do a quick Vox Pop interview. And Sally Gray, the presenting coach that I was working with, she approached a young woman, asked her if she'd come and do a Vox Pop. She came over and they were chatting whilst I was filming another one. And then Sally said, "I've got Bavnisha here. She's an actress. She's been in Doctor Who." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And, sort of recognised her, and we got chatting. And she did a little bit, and then she was, I think, in between recordings that day. And then sometime later I connected with her on LinkedIn, and we had a chat, and she remembered me. And that's how we got her on. So she was one of our, her and Ray Holman. Her and Ray Holman,
And talk about positivity. She is one of the most positive people you could ever meet in life. She is brilliant and beautiful for that, and I love her tremendously. If you ever listen to any of the stuff, she's been on radio as well, and she just cheers you up if you're feeling down. Just have a look at one of her posts or something, and immediately cheer you up, because she's brilliant. I love it. Here we go. We got Thajarans again, but we don't know who they are. Demons. No. That's all we know. They're demons. And how great do they look? These little sequences where they flash into and out of the Doctor's brain, where they're kind of in a sort of liquid form, black and white, glitchy kind of effect. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's really good.
Again, and they look kind of scary. They look fierce with all the spikes and things sort of sticking out of them.
Yeah, the reveal on them is great. I'll just say we'll stick a link to Bav's episode in the text on here. And I'm really hoping she turns up in the 13 Adventures with Big Finish. She's been cryptic on that, hasn't she?
She's done a lot of Big Finish work with them, not just as she was with the 12th Doctor, wasn't she? She played. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the companion
now. She
in
played
an
original
Doctor
companion for 12 on some of those audios, which were really good as well.
That was years ago now, mate. We've been doing this for years.
That was a long time ago.
Every week for what? 3?
That's more than that. It's nearly 4 years.
My goodness! No wonder I'm old and grey now.
If you've been listening to us since day one, let us know.
Thank you. Yes.
We'd like to know.
Do let us know.
Yeah. If you've stuck with us,
and if you've listened to every episode, also let us know. You'll definitely get a badge for that.
If you haven't got a badge and you've been
have to prove it,
listening from day one, or you've listened to everything, we'll send you a badge.
Yeah, Umbreen. So Umbreen here is also played by Amita Suman, right? Who's in another thing I'm watching as well, rewatching role, which is Shadow and Bone. I watched that last year. Me and Freya watched it.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought it was all right. I didn't love it particularly, but she was great in it. She's got so much presence. And we started watching it again because Freya's now read the book, so she understands a lot more of what's going on, so she can explain it to me.
I just noticed this is what they call wavy-haired 13, isn't it? The heat has made her hair go wild.
Gets a bit humid and goes a bit frizzy, a bit wavy. Yeah. And do you know, as every time I watch this story, I kind of get caught up in the emotions of the tragedy of this, because obviously, having watched it a few times now, I know it's going to happen in the end. and it is a beautifully written tragedy. Like it's almost like a Shakespearean kind of thing. It's where everything sort of starts, and it's kind of not exactly light and frothy, but everyone's sort of getting on well. There's a little bit of underlying tension, which is almost kind of written off as, well, there's just family squabbles, right? Every family has squabbles every now and then. We throw our ties out the pram and slam the doors, and an hour the next morning later, it's all fine. But of course, the tragedy here is these family squabbles become violent, and they end in the worst possible way. And it's not something that is limited to one family. What we really get a sense of throughout this story is that it's happening to pretty much every family over, that is in a divided India right now, at this point in time. And this again is where Doctor Who sort of fulfills the brief of being educational in its historicals.
Sorry, I just want to say I'm going to come right back to that point. But did you see all the raindrops in that previous scene?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, right, I fucking raindrops. So I mean, I don't know about you, Geoff, but I wasn't taught anything about partition. No, one little thing about partition. I think maybe when I was in primary school, which was. And of course, part of the British Empire was dividing India. So we divided India into India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And it was brilliant. Good job, ran by all. Fabulous. I don't think it was quite like that, but nonetheless, it wasn't dwelt on. It certainly wasn't portrayed as a bad thing. It was a thing that was done at the end of Empire. Let's move on, sort of thing. And I think this is really the first time that it's ever kind of been put in front of my eyes in the form of a living document almost. Do you know what I mean? And presented in a way that I can relate immediately to the families and suddenly emotionally get emotionally invested and sort of understand what they're facing right now in this. It's terrible, it's horrible, and it happened. And and yet the tragedy of the story doesn't affect it being a great Doctor Who story either.
That's because it makes you feel something. And...
Exactly. Where I don't know. I mean, I should probably shut up because I just love this story so much, and it just ticks every single box. It doesn't sell the history short. It treats it with respect. It gives it the gravitas and authority, and the sort of depth that it absolutely needs for such a serious subject. And it's also lively in a way that a Doctor Who story is lively, and it's funny because it's Doctor Who, but it's the right kind of funny. It's not there for cheap laughs. The comedy or the humour, there's not much of it, but it is there. It comes from the Doctor being the Doctor, mostly trying to sort of keep everyone together and understand the situation and put the bad guys off kilter and everything, and the kind of family banter that at this moment is kind of going on before it all turns sour. And I love these effects.
Yeah,
they're back in
really good. Yeah,
because I think these were done in camera, weren't they? They weren't added on afterwards, or did I just read that as a kind of modern legend?
I don't know how you do that in camera.
Maybe I am mistaken in that, but I'm sure I read somewhere in Doctor Who magazine or somewhere that they were, and it was quite a big deal.
I was going to say that I didn't call anything about partition when I watched this, and I remember saying, I think on Joe's podcast, I felt a bit embarrassed having watched this and thinking I knew nothing about this, and like you, maybe I probably was taught something about it when I was younger, but there was a long time ago, and I haven't remembered it, and it was possibly sort of brushed over a little bit, because this is probably a bit of a blot on our history and the.
Oh, there were many.
Well, many, yeah, but the thinking you can just kind of do that to a country, to its people, is just unbelievable.
With no thought to the consequences thereafter. It's just.
And I think what works, well, there's many things that work with this episode, but like you were saying, it's giving you an education, but it's not. I don't feel it's not being it's not bashing you over the head with it, even though it's one of the central elements of it. It's handled really nicely. and sensitively, but the emotional aspect of it all, with the families, just strengthens the whole thing and makes it
Yeah,
even
agreed.
more powerful. I think you could have done a quite dry, quite factual thing about it all, with the Thajarans and stuff like that, but by adding in that real human element and really showing us what it did, it makes it hit home so much.
Agreed.
So
Yeah, because family is something that we can all relate to, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
We're going to watch this sort of thing and sort of picture it in context of our own family. Some people don't
The
do that, but it's that's what it's kind of asking us to do
yeah,
as observers.
these. What do you think of the Thajarans? These
I
guys.
love them. I think they're great. I think that, so. I mean, what you're just saying put me in mind of a couple of criticisms that's often levelled at this particular story. Um, One of them is that it's a little bit preachy. I don't think it is. So I'm not even going to give that time of day.
Is it
But one which I
woke?
think is worth talking about is the fact that the aliens are quite often seen as superfluous in this story. And I can kind of see why people would say that, because we're talking here about it being a historical. Well, obviously it's not pure historical because it's got aliens in it.
Mm,
It's that kind of Doctor Who category, which is like a pseudo historical, which is a bit like the Time War. It's like it's set in a historical time, but it has aliens in it
mm,
basically. And but in this one, of course, unlike the Time Warrior, Lynx gets involved and he changes things around
mm,
in that little locale. But here, of course, the Thajarans don't. They don't really change anything. We don't know that at the moment. We don't really know why they're here or whatever they're going to do. But as the story develops, obviously, we learn they're here to observe, to remember the fallen, and to kind of carry those memories and add them to their huge database, which is very similar to the Testament in the end of the previous series, wasn't it? It was only Twice Upon a Time, which was not that long ago before this. It was literally the Christmas. I know, as you know, there was like a year or so between them, but nonetheless, it was quite recent. Anyway, I'm whittering on, but I think if you kind of think that the Thajarans are superfluous, I think you're sort of missing the point of the story or an aspect of the story, because I think what that does actually, having the aliens there, it kind of gives us, it forces us to kind of remember those moments and remember this tragedy in itself. Yes, it
mm.
could just happen. I think it would be, it'd be a good story. But because it's Doctor Who, it can be much more than just a historical story. It can have this extra dimension. And I think the Thajarans in the early part of the story, in this first half of the story, they provide a bit of a mystery
Mm.
and kind of in that way sort of pull us through as the family narrative kind of starts to get a bit more weight. And as the family narrative gets more weight, the alien narrative kind of slides off a little bit. So it shifts in its focus, so that by the end of the episode, it's all about the family and not really about the aliens at all. But because they've been there and they've asked us to remember this and to sort of carry these dead people with us almost, and it has for me an extra emotional punch because of that. I don't think they cheapen the episode. I don't
No.
think they're 100%. I don't think they're superfluous. I think they make it Doctor Who.
Mm.
They make it more than a kind of living documentary
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah. I agree. I think
And they look great, as
they're,
you
they're
said.
not superfluous to it. They're intertwined into it in a way that you
Intertwined.
know,
Yeah.
in a sci-fi capacity, makes it work. And I think they probably couldn't have gotten away with this episode purely historically. It needed something to make it Doctor Who. I think. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I agree. I mean, one of the problems with the reason that they dropped the historicals early on is because audience feedback said they're boring and dull. I
yeah,
mean, we had things like the French Revolution story, and what else have we had? We didn't have that many. The Aztecs.
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, the Aztecs is effing marvelous. I mean, it's brilliant. I could watch that back to back for days. The drama is so intense in that story. It's incredible. It is a brilliant piece of writing, and it is purely historical. Marco Polo is another one which I've never seen, but I've listened to it on audio, and again, some of this stuff is really incredible, but they don't get the wider audience. That's the thing. It's almost like, we kind of need a bit of alien interest to sort of bring everybody into it.
And you're watching Doctor Who, and you're sort of expecting a sci-fi element to it, so
we are nowadays, definitely.
Yeah. Well, now that it's established, yeah. I thought that perhaps the Thajarans would turn up at 13's end. I remember a few people saying that online, that that would have been quite a sort of good way to bring them back in.
The Doctor's not dead though. The Doctor continues.
No, I know, but depends on your view of what happens upon her regeneration, doesn't it?
Maybe, but the Doctor is the Doctor. That's the whole point.
But, I know that, but 10 had the Ood turning up to sing for him and stuff, So this version of the Doctor is gone, so that would have been quite nice. I was just looking at them when they turn up there. Their ears are quite bat-like, aren't they? And the big tusks and the multiple eyes and stuff. I think they look great.
Do you think they sleep upside down, hanging from the
They
rafters?
might do. It's a shame we haven't.
Might do that.
Should see them again at something. That would be quite good.
I think the only problem, in a way, with the Thajarans is that it was a little bit too soon after we had the Testament from Twice Upon a Time, which were kind of similar in a way. They were sort of collecting a hive consciousness again at the end of the universe, or collecting dead souls, and they sort of replicating them, I think, weren't they? Because they had a replica of Bill for the 12th Doctor right at the end. It's been a while since I've seen that story, but I kind of like it. It's in a way, it's got similar themes, that whole idea of remembrance and testimony, and that kind of thing, and also tied up in war as well, which obviously this one is, and so is that. I think this, if memory serves, went out on Remembrance Day here in the UK. It was the 11th of November, wasn't it, when we have a big thing to remember the soldiers who died during our various wars. So that kind of gave it an added poignancy, I feel. Whereas Twice Upon a Time specifically remembered those moments within the First World War. The Battle of the Somme, No Man's Land, and football playing at Christmas time and stuff like that. And there was a big kind of commentary on the futility of it all from Lethbridge Stewart, played by Mark Gatiss at the time. So that's another decent story as well, actually. I did quite enjoy most of that.
That's when the First Doctor is portrayed as a sexist pig, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sexist pig, did he say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reduces the First Doctor to a caricature, really. I kind of think Stephen Moffat was sort of doing it for fun, but there was a bit of a possibly justified backlash on that.
Yeah, Bradley's, he's been really good in it, but it was possibly a bit. Maybe he thought, it'd be funny to sort of make it a bit. I don't know.
Well, the First Doctor does say to Susan, "I'll give you I'll spank your bottom," in the Dalek invasion of Earth, which is quite early on. But of course, the First Doctor is much more nuanced. That's not the thing that defines the First Doctor.
No.
That's a line in a story written by Terry Nation that would have been appropriate at the time.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe he was trying to make it a bit of a spoof on that sort of, era and what what people said, and blah blah blah. But it just didn't really kind of work for us today.
I love Stephen Moffat's ideas. I think his brain just fires off on some brilliant concepts and just somehow manages to squeeze them into some extraordinary stories. But on the flip side of that, he'll throw it all away for the sake of a punchline, a cheap punchline after time, a cheap gag. And whilst most of them probably come off, I think they don't all come off all the time with all the people.
No.
And I think it does divide fans and viewers, but I can't fault him for his story writing. They're just some incredible things.
Yeah, I think, he always, had these grand big ideas, and the payoffs perhaps never quite worked, or not as well as, they could have done. But, he certainly had, huge concept, ideas on everything.
Big brain imagination.
Yeah. These scenes here are really
Yeah.
nicely lit.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is one of the tensest scenes where we've got the guys of the family now all kind of, I mean, Ryan and, I keep saying Bradley, Graham, right? Sort of playing cards the last night before the wedding, like a sort of muted stag night
Yeah.
kind of thing. But of course, it becomes a bit of a polemic. It kind of deepens or widens the division between the brothers now. So one of whom is all for partition, the other one is completely against it. And it's those cracks. This is where I think we start to understand it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to heal those cracks. I think when I was watching this for the first time, I was kind of hopeful that the brothers might kind of get it together, because they were obviously close at some point, right? We got that. I think one of the younger guy. What is his name? Manish? Is it Manish?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Manish, who's didn't go to fight in the war, and his he kind of has this beef against Prem, doesn't he? But they were so chummy at the start of the episode, and now they're not. And I just kind of want them to come together, and you're kind of diverted by the Doctor's antics on here, because she's doing something now to sort of trap the Thajarans or something, isn't she? I kind of lost track now. She's got a device. She's got a MacGuffin device, and she's being zapped back into the Thajarian base.
Nice lighting.
Beautiful. Stepping out of the blur, the soft focus kind of thing.
I was just thinking.
So is this where she gets it all mansplained to her now, why they're here and what they're doing?
It's called Exposition.
Yeah. Well, this is another nice thing, actually, which I think also gives this story an added depth, is the Thajarans' history. Obviously, it's a little bit kind of binary. They were assassins. They were an entire race of assassins. So everyone who was born was going to be an assassin, right? In a way that alien races are quite often portrayed in sort of domestic sci-fi. It's like, if one person on the planet is an assassin, everyone on the planet's an assassin. But nonetheless, that's what they used to do. Now, of course, they don't. They go around the universe honouring the dead or the fallen, the forgotten, all of that.
Yeah, it's such a nice concept.
It's a little bit simplistic, but it's a nice added dimension to the story, and kind of reminds us of that we can change, that we can be our worst selves at one period of time, but if we make a conscious decision to not be that anymore and move forward and be better, be the best, I think that's what they kind of typified. That's the story they're telling, or the plot point in this. So I think that's an important side narrative to the main story, because as you said earlier, Geoff, dividing India was not Britain's best moment by any shot, and it is kind of recognised. But as a nation, we can make better decisions. We can be better than this. I'd like to think anyway. But that's the thing, isn't it? It takes conscious choice. It takes the need and the want to be that person, to make those decisions. And if you can get yourself in a position of power, what do? Do you think purely for your own ends, or do you throw the net a little bit wider, and decide that you're going to throw it all in for the future of humanity?
Well, yeah.
Or do you decide what the future of humanity should be?
Yeah, I wish a few people would do that.
Indeed, yeah.
I was just going to say about Tosin Cole.
Oh yeah, we haven't really talked about him.
No, he popped up on Instagram the other day. Yeah.
What is he doing now then?
Well,
he's
been in a couple of shows.
Got a job?
Yeah, he's worked a lot since this, and it's funny really. Some people say he's quite wooden and quite boring, and I'm not sure that that's him. Like, I don't think as an actor he was bored doing this show. I think that's how the character was. He's very reserved, very shy. And there's moments where it's clear that he's a solid actor. In Resolution, the bit with his dad there. Can You Hear Me? He's got a number of really good dramatic scenes. And the fact that he's, I mean, okay, yeah, fine, bad actors can work and stuff, can't they? But he's been the lead in a couple of series and stuff, and he's done a couple of bits of films, and he's pretty busy and quite popular and stuff. And he certainly looks quite different now. He's got a sort of cooler look to himself, So
I think he's great. I think he's, the best actors are those that seem more natural, and I think Doctor Who, over its history, and even in modern Who, has a tendency towards being melodramatic. It has a tendency towards melodrama, and a lot of that is carried by the actors. And I think when it's kind of just toned down a little bit, it becomes more believable. And I think this is again one of the elements that I love about this series. I don't really think anybody's hamming it up.
No, not at all.
Specifically,
no.
I think they maybe start towards the end. I think there's a few moments in Flux and possibly Series 12 where you could point a finger and say, okay, stop eating the scenery. Just get on with the acting. But Tosin's not one of those guys.
No.
Ryan's character has a brilliant arc throughout all of this. Yeah. And I've seen criticism say, "Oh yeah, he can throw a basket into a basketball net," kind of thing. And it's like, well, if that's all you think it is, you're not watching the show properly. So shut up and move on, kind of thing. He's a guy who's got no self-confidence, no self-belief. He blames everything on his disability. If he can't do it, it's because he's dyspraxic. That's it. He just blames it totally. But it's not long before he starts learning to actually put that to one side, because he has to. He has to climb a ladder if he wants to survive, if he wants to get out of this hole. He has to, run across a conveyor belt that's moving at 90 miles an hour and, jump around and stuff like that. He has to force himself to be coordinated, even when he can't be coordinated. And he realizes that he can do it.
Yeah.
He can, he doesn't lose his dyspraxia. He learns to not let it stop him.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And whilst at the start of it, he can't ride a bike and he blames it completely on his dyspraxia, says it's stupid and says he's never going to be able to do it. But by the end of it, he still can't ride a bike, but he tries, and he knows that he can at some point, or will at some point, and he doesn't let his disability stop him. He doesn't use it as a kind of excuse almost, which is what he does at the start of this series. So, and not only that, there's also a kind of emotional maturity that comes to Ryan throughout as well, because he does make some pretty dumb decisions throughout this series on occasion. But by the end of Flux, not the end of Flux, by the end of Series 12, he's advising the Doctor on how she should behave when faced with all the crap that's going on around her with Gallifrey and what have you, and the Master and everything. He kind of reminds her that she needs to be true to herself, because that's what she wanted him to be. She kind of wanted him to be confident, and now he's giving it back to her. And I love that maturity that comes with Ryan towards the end of that. When he leaves the TARDIS, he's a different guy. He's the same guy, but he's a more mature guy. He's learned a lot more.
It's a subtle arc on him, but it's quite substantial. And also the way the relationship with Graham develops, from sort of prickly and antagonistic to calling him granddad and stuff is really nicely done and really quite affecting. And people say, oh, they had nowhere to go in Series 12. Well, they became close and they became friends, and the relationship strengthened, and that was the goal of it. That was the point of it. So I think he's underrated. And like you said, people go, oh, his whole character arc was throwing a ball into a hoop. Well, you're just choosing to see that.
To see it like that. But again, this is the problem. I think because a lot of Doctor Who tends towards melodrama, we have almost like exaggerated beats in storytelling sometimes. There are certain stories where, everything is all at a very heightened state and all the reactions are very extreme. It's literally life or death. It's almost that binary, and everything's all frenetic and excitement, and the music is kind of ramping up. And that's all fine. That's part of why we love it. But when Doctor Who takes a step downwards in tone and just slows it down a little bit, that's kind of what I mean by stepping downwards. For me anyway, I think they got it bang on in the series. I'm not sure that it's part of the diversity of Doctor Who. The sort of roller coaster of its tone. I don't think I would enjoy 20 series like Series 11. To be fair, you know what I mean? I think it would quickly become a little bit kind of one note. But likewise, I wouldn't want 20 stories or 20 years of stories like Rose and Aliens of London, World War Three and stuff like that, Slitheen and what have you, sort of running round. Doctor Who needs that shift. It needs to be pantomime one week and serious death and destruction the other week and grounded family drama another week. And then back, you know what I mean? It needs that constant turmoil and shift and movement because that's why I love it. If it was just one note all the time, I don't know. It would.
Well,
it wouldn't have lasted for one thing, and I probably wouldn't still be watching it.
And I think that's quite interesting what you said there lasted. Because Ryan's arc, but and we said this before. These characters are very human in it, and I think for when other characters in the show, they're the most important person in the universe, the most important person in the creation of eternity.
That's melodrama, isn't it? That's exactly what that is, and you can only sustain that for so long.
Yeah, and I think going into something that was very human and very relatable was maybe quite jarring for some people and quite different, whereas for you and me, this actually connected far more. There's nothing wrong with being the most important person in the universe, but
how many people is the most important person in the universe in modern Doctor Who? Literally every companion almost, it seemed at one point. So that's the thing. You can't sustain a one note. Even in this era, it changes. It's only season 11 that is like season 11. By the time we get on to 12, we maybe have a few more of the kind of tropes that typified Russell T Davies's era of Doctor Who kind of creeping back in. And by the time we got Flux, well, Flux is a different series entirely. And then we get those one-offs, Legend of the Sea Devils. We get the Power of the Doctor, which is its own unique thing, a kind of encapsulation of everything that made this era what it was. And lots of stuff from previous Doctor Who as well. So, even this little era of Doctor Who, these 3 or 4 seasons, they change a lot.
Yes.
They're constantly moving. It's only Series 11 that feels like Series 11.
It keeps it interesting for the definitely. Cast and,
Just this here, mate, watch. I think this is a shot that I absolutely love. I think it's just the light through this. And honestly, the lighting in this shed, it's just beautiful. It is gorgeous. But that there with the the kind of window behind him and the handheld sort of camera, it's brilliantly. This feels like cinema.
Yeah.
It's the closest to cinema I think that Doctor Who has ever really been.
Look at that. The Doctor is not afraid of him holding the gun there.
No, the Doctor never is. Or at least will always challenge people when they do hold guns. And this is a great shot as well, sort of slow motion on the horses. Now, these are the bad guys that Minish has kind of summoned, hasn't he? He's kind of called them in. He's ratted out his family, told them that they're here. And they're going to do some damage. And we know that just by the way everything's kind of set up, by the drama in the camera work, the lighting, the urgency. Again, this is it, because we move from from sort of wide angles, beautiful vistas, gorgeous scene setting and tight knit family, to now it's all a lot more urgent. There's the cuts. There's more close ups.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that head turning. There's a lot of reaction shots, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's constantly moving.
That with some of the scenes there were people sitting and standing and talking, and I've seen people. Surprise, criticising the scenes, particularly TARDIS scenes in this era where people are standing in the TARDIS and they're talking. And, people criticise how, people don't move around that much and it's quite flat and all that sort of thing. And I have to disagree, unsurprisingly, but I think when you're filming complex dialogue scenes with multiple people in, and you maybe only have a day to do that and other scenes, the bottom line is, particularly on TV, you've got to make it relatively easy to shoot. You can't be covering, people moving around in complex movement patterns. When you've got multiple people, when it's just the Doctor and Yaz, it's a bit different. There's a lot more movement around the TARDIS console, but you've got You've got to plan the moods, you've got to handle the lighting on it, the continuity for, do you know what I mean? There's a lot to it. So saying, oh, it's just four people standing around talking. Well, actually, you try doing it, you know?
I think also, mate, it's like, well, welcome to drama, welcome to theatre, cinema. That's it's not all big explosions and people jumping around and
No.
being arseholes. When
And
you're
this,
telling human drama, it's a different story, and that requires a different. Oh, just look at that! It's just gorgeous. There's very few times when I enjoy lens flare. It usually gives me a headache. But that one moment there, it was just right. You know what I mean? When they just kiss right there, and the sort of lens flare just comes through the shaft of sunlight. It's just brilliant. But yeah. And
it's
I agree.
complicated doing dialogue scenes. I mean, like,
yeah, it is. But I think also it's like, it's not that kind of a story where you move the camera around and flash it around everything.
Oh, no,
The
I
way
was
you
just
film
meaning,
has to reflect the story that you're telling, and has to help it. The story is the story. The film, what you're pointing at to make you see it is the conduit.
but
And quite often, the camera and all the effects and everything else can get in the way of the story, which happens a lot more than you might think. But look at this, beautiful. Back to that wide shot. Just look at the sun there. Hills in the background. This is it now, the final confrontation between the two brothers, isn't it? Prem still, look, everybody's welcome. It's almost like a kind of metaphor between sort of progress and the opposite, the kind of status quo. I mean, which is weird in a way, because obviously the whole partition was seen as a progressive thing, but obviously kind of had the worst effect possible. But progress in terms of being compassionate, being understanding of other people and their beliefs, and finding a way to live with them and accommodate them and understand and respect them almost. Or you take a point where that's not you, because you don't believe what they believe, they're wrong, you're right, they need to die. It's that kind of conflict that we've got here. And there's a shot coming up in a moment with the guy in a horse pointing the gun. And again, talk about the sunlight just catching things at the right moment. I think it's one of the most beautiful and tragic shots in Doctor Who. The Thajarans are here because they know someone's going to die, and we know who it's going to be, don't we? Oh, poor Prem. It's just not good, but he still loves his brother. He still wants to be with him, His brother's like, nah, get off, man. No one to
and
me.
this whole bit here.
There you go. Look at that. The sun through the stock of the rifle.
Yeah.
Love that.
I wonder how many days they spent to film that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got that sun for just not long.
There we go. Look at that. Oh, man. So good. So much thought and care and effort and attention and love has gone into making this. Doctor's face there.
Yeah. And Yaz as well.
They can't stop what happened. And it's part of history, because Prem, Yaz didn't know he even existed.
No, she's discovered
she didn't know anything about that. And there is a disembodied head rises to join the rest. Now, I've got the sound turned down on this so I can talk to you better, but if I remember, if I'm to put the sound down, I think the music to this
it's really good.
It is just
lovely match cut there from the top of the Thajarans into the TARDIS.
Top down on the console and the TARDIS floor, which is not a shot we see that often.
No, it's not.
If at all, actually.
Got that.
And I love also the story in this, that the reason why Umbreen went to Sheffield, and the two places couldn't seem more different. Sort of industrial Sheffield and this gorgeous vista from the Punjab, and yet she just stuck a pin in the map and said it sounded exotic, and there she went, which is great, and lived her life and had her family there, and it's brilliant. It's a wonderful story, this.
Yeah.
And of course, it makes Yaz understand her grandma and what, the sacrifices that she made, the life she had, all the things that she encountered on her journey. It makes Yaz understand her a little bit more, and perhaps, sort of respect her a little bit more in a way. know what she had to deal with.
Yeah, because I think, people, you have your grandparents and you sort of know them as they are now, but, you don't often sort of find out about, their past, obviously, unless you ask, and Yaz here literally got to kind of, live it and find out more about her. And, I remember years ago I asked my gran some questions about her childhood for something I was doing at school, and it was, I can remember it now, finding out about, her life in, 1915 in Cornwall, where she grew up. Brilliant.
And the mystery of the watch as well, wasn't it? We didn't talk about the watch, but that was quite a nice touch as well.
Yeah.
Is, why the watch got broken, how it got broken, and why she still has it as well. It's the only thing she's got to remind her of Prem.
Yeah.
I think, now this the end credits, so we get that rendition of the theme tune, don't we? Which was sung by.
See it.
Sung by.
I can't remember her name. She does 13's theme, doesn't she?
The closing. There we go. Performed by Kuljit Bamra, Sajid Singh, and singer Shahid Abbas Khan.
Yes, it's really lovely. His music's brilliant. Oh, it's Kabam next. Yeah. I do like Kabam. That's
Julie
great.
Hemsley.
Yeah.
There we go. Fantastic.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was great. I feel like
It's a great story.
I
love that. I love that story.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want every Doctor Who story to be like that.
No, but
it's a fabulous one.
It's really good.
I love it a lot.
Yeah.
It's 10 out of 10 from me.
Yeah.
I always go on that. The Caves of Androzani for me is the best Doctor Who story, and it still is. I love it. But it couldn't be any more different from Demons of the Punjab. But what both of them have in common is a kind of a sort of quality about the way that they're made. Everyone, you can tell, has put absolutely everything and then some into every aspect of everything, from the writing, from getting the script into shape, to the acting, to the way it's shot, film produced, the way it's edited and put together, the way it tells the story, and the way, just everything. Everybody involved in this is giving it, 100% more, even, if that were possible. But, it really shows in those few stories in Doctor Who's lifeline, where it just sort of raises these stories above the norm.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I feel like watching that with the sound on properly now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful story, wonderfully produced, wonderfully acted, brilliantly written.
Right, yeah.
That's my summary. Right there.
Yeah,
if you disagree, that's fine. You can write in and tell us why you disagree. If you think we're talking nonsense, please do. Geoff will ignore your comments, but I might take it seriously.
I'll just have a quick look, because I did post on.
You did ask for
Twitter
a bit of feedback, although to be fair, it was an hour before we started recording.
Hang on.
We really ought to do this a little bit sooner, Geoff.
So we've had a comment from Mini Miku. The best episode of season 11 and one of the best historical of the show. It's beautiful and sad, and we really feel all the emotional states the episode wants us to feel. Also, a really great speech of 13th Doctor about love, one of her most impactful moments.
Definitely.
We didn't mention that. A great episode. Thank you, Mini Miku. Yeah, we agree with all of that. So, yeah, fantastic. So, we'll be back next week with more Who-related action. What that will be is top secret right now.
We'll find out very soon.
We've got something lined up, which will be March time, which will be connected to a Big Finish release around then. So that's a little while away, but look out for that. If you have any ideas for anything that you would like us to look at or, to cover, let us know. But yeah, stick around, get involved, and we'll catch you next time on Who Corner to Corner podcast.
See you next time. Bye for now.
TTFN.